It's like I can't get my throat clear here tonight.
Yeah, I've been feeling a little touch of something too. Okay, we are live. Now we just gotta see. Well, there's nobody there yet, but there's chat there though. There is chat there. All right. Anyway, let's just start, I guess. And if anybody, it's kind of funny because this is the first time we announced we were gonna do it, and there's no one fucking here. And then every other time we just like, fuck it, let's just try it right now. Oh, here we go. We got a couple of people. Hey guys,
There we go.
we got Gregory, we got the Like L, the Lick P, the Emma Bajic, the Wattens. Okay, we got a couple of people. So we got of course we're gonna be doing user submitted stories again tonight. I got a cool one actually from Emma. She's already here. And Emma, I did get your second email. I didn't reply just because I was super busy, but I got your picture. And when I tell your story, I'm actually going to throw that up on the screen. So we got that. And trying to think what else. I feel like I had some other things to say. Well, I'm just going to wait till we hit 20. When we hit 20, I guess we'll start. In the meantime, while we're starting here, people, oh, cool. We got someone from Ontario. We got Jules Catherine. She's from Ontario. I used to live there when I was a kid, you know. I actually lived in Scarborough. I was only a small lad. And my mom was afraid I'd be abducted, so we moved back home. That's a true story. Hey, Greenfelds. Hi, Jig BMW. Hi, Shar. Yeah, actually, I had this little blast force. It was like I guess a kid's bike that was kind of like a Harley Davidson and had a squirt machine gun on it and stuff. And I used to ride it down the sidewalk. And this old man used to come up fucking crazy every time I did it. I try to sleep in here. It's like, it's the fucking afternoon, you crazy asshole. You know, like, I'm just a kid. Leave me alone, right? So, okay.
Oh, this is great. We're getting, lots of people.
We're getting some people there at all. Yeah, I mean, it has gotten pretty crazy up there. Hey, Jules.
Hi, Brittany.
Even from when I was there. Hi, Brittany. You see Brittany?
Yeah, Brittany's there.
That's my wife for everybody else. That's my lovely, beautiful wife.
All right, Brittany, you're ruining the bandwidth. Get off.
Actually, now, I come here tonight, and hi, Cisco and Gregory Myers and Charlotte C. And a lot from England. So we got people from all over. That's awesome. I came here with a special guest. I didn't even tell Ryan about this. That I have a little bit of a story for you guys that he's going to tell. But because of the way that my camera's situated, I'm going to have to cover up the cam, so just so you don't see him walking in. But we do have a little bit of a story. If that's cool with you guys, are you guys wanting to hear his story? Come on, can I get a yes, yes, a yay, yay? A something or other?
Remember, there's a slight delay.
Oh, yeah, right. Delay. All right, I'm just going to fucking do it anyway, because regardless of what anyone said, I was going to do it. So I'm just going to cover up my cam here. Hang on. And wait for that to, because I got a little.
Apparently Will has a special guest for us that I didn't even know about.
All right, guys, I'm gonna go get him. So Ryan, you can chat to our crowd here for a couple minutes.
Let's all hope this is some kind of Buffalo Bill thing, and Will comes back in, all tucked in, and drops a robe.
And I'm like, "Do you want to fuck?" No, okay. I'm not even gonna go there. I'll be back in a minute.
How is everybody doing tonight? So glad that you can come and join us. Well, thank you very much, Charlotte. I'm doing pretty good tonight. My voice is a little rough here, so I apologize for that. And I think Will is back.
I am back. I have a little story You guys are going to think that I'm joking at first. I'm just waiting for the feed to speed up here. Here we go.
Oh, my.
There's my little man. Little Mr. Isaac. Oh, he's got the hiccups, and I'm hoping he's not going to get fussy because he's teething. But we actually do have a little story that I'm hoping I'm going to be able to use to get some stories from you guys. So, of course, I'm with my son a lot, and I notice a lot of different things that he does. And anyway, a couple times now I've noticed this, that he'll look up into like the corner of the room, and he'll start like smiling and laughing and actually following with his eyes something in the room, and like visually tracking it with his head. And anyway, my wife has noticed it too, and we've noticed it a couple times now, and it got to me thinking about how babies and children can see ghosts, and they can see things that we can't normally see. So it got me wondering if any of our audience out there has children, or maybe they're growing up now, but has some stories about their children that have seen things that they, their parents couldn't see, things that freaked them out. One thing that always comes to my mind is when I got the baby monitor and I'm looking at it, it's all lo-fi, and man, it just looks ripe for a horror movie kind of thing, and I'm always ready to run up, oh my god, to his room. But if you guys got a story on like if you guys have children, if you've had some freaky things that your children have done that you think is related to the paranormal or something like that, I'd love to hear it. And with that said, I'm not going to keep him here because it's probably really boring, and I could tell he's probably getting fussy. But here he is again, just to see how cute he is. And Isaac, everybody said you're cute. There you are, my bud. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to run him back up to his mom, and then we'll get started with some really neat stories here. Just hang on one sec. So, Ron, you can entertain the crowd here for a minute again.
Oh, yeah, well.
Oh. I got you all.
That the whole thing with children and ghosts and, of course, one of the big things is imaginary friends. I know when I was a kid, I had an imaginary friend, but I also, I'm not nowhere near as cute as Isaac, but, I do my best. When I remember when I was just a little guy, like maybe 5 and 6 years old, no, Jules, I do not have any kids, a cat. But yeah, when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, I would routinely hear whispers. A lot of the times would be my name, and quite a few times I seen shadowy figures and full-on apparitions, I guess you could say, and it would scare the life out of me. I was an extremely terrified child, because every time I was alone, I would see and hear things. And I know that makes me sound like a schizophrenic, but I would a lot of the times hear, just as a little kid, I get, do something wrong, get punished, get put in my room, couldn't leave. And it was torture because I wouldn't be allowed out of my room, and I could hear voices coming from my closet whispering my name, and it would just terrify me. And for a long time, I never slept through the whole night. I would always go to my parents' bedroom and be completely terrified of something that I seen or heard, or I would get bed shaking a lot. I know, geez, I forgot about that. Now that I'm talking about it, I would routinely feel my bed shaking, and it was, of course, my parents didn't believe me when I would, was grounded and had to stay in my room because I wasn't listening or being bad, and I'd plead with them, let me out, there's something in here, and Nope, they wouldn't have it. So it was slightly traumatizing, but I got over it.
Yeah, and Ryan thought it would be best to then go on to get into Satanism and look into all the darkest dark stuff and conjure up demons of his own. So,
like you do.
like you do. But, there is, for children who see this stuff, and it's kind of common, right? I mean, well, to a degree. I mean, everybody's heard of it. There's been movies that have portrayed, like, poltergeists and stuff like that. It's always the children who notice it first. And, unfortunately, a lot of people just, they don't believe in that. So if your kids come running to you, or I should say, if their kids come running to them, they just say that, that there's no such thing, blah, blah, blah. And it's terrifying. I mean, movies have portrayed that all the time, that sad situation where, the kid's actually seeing something and nobody quite believes in it. So what do you do, right? But I do. So if my son ever comes to me and he sees or hears something, then he's not going to have any problems with that. Now, before we get into the show tonight, I mean, one show I know that we're doing for sure is Emma sent in a story with it was a tree topper that she got that's actually cursed. There's a bit of a story there. I have the picture. It's really cool. And we have some other stories. Thanks, Jules. I couldn't be happier being a father, honestly. And just before we jump into the show, of course, I wanted to hear from you guys for a future show. If you have, like, your children have seen, ghosts or whatever that is. But there's another topic too that Ryan and I have talked about quite a bit back and forth, and we never did do a show on it. But if I could get some really cool stories from the audience, I'd love to do a show on it. And it has to do with people who have an interaction with electric devices, like, say, streetlights. You walk under a streetlight and it turns off. And no, I'm not talking about the motion detected lights and stuff like that. For me, I've had experiences with that stuff when I was a kid, well before that was a thing, before we had motion detected devices, and especially where I live, and it's poor as shit. I don't think that there's any even now. So these kinds of stories go way back to before that technology was here, and there are people that have electrical interference with ghost lights, with radios, with all different kinds of things, and some people refer to those people as sliders. So yeah, if you have a story like that, I'd love to hear that as well. And one last thing I wanted to point out. Last time we did this show, like somewhere in the middle, I went on just asked the audience totally unrelated question, and it was about whether I should get a PlayStation 4 Pro or a graphics card, right? Well, I got a graphics card, and here's why I'm bringing it up. I bought this thing right here. It's a GeForce 1070 Extreme. The reason why I bring it up is because it came with a free download code of Gears of War 4, and I already own it. It was great, actually. Me and my wife played through the campaign, but I already own it. And if anyone wants to buy it for half price of what it normally goes for, I'd be happy to sell it to you. So just fire me an email, will@effedupstories.com, and I'll send you a PayPal invoice at half the price of what the game costs. You need to have Windows 10 to play it. But, if you're good there and you're a gamer, it's a pretty awesome game. So, with that said, we're going to jump into Emma's story. Emma Bejic. Okay. So, as I said, she sent me a story about a cursed tree topper, basically. And I'm going to show you the picture. She sent this to me. I'm just going to pop it up on the screen here. So that should pop up there in a second. This is what it looked like. To me, personally, it actually has a bit of a creepy look. But anyway, let's jump into her story. So this comes from Emma Bejic. Now, I'm going to read this as she wrote it. I am not a stranger to the paranormal. I am a medium and have been able to see and hear spirits all of my life. My family works with what we call white witchcraft, and I have experienced a lot of paranormal phenomenon and am not easily frightened. I had always been interested in the subject of haunted items, but never thought I would actually own one myself. I have recently become an avid collector of holiday decor that I find at flea markets because of the antique quality and the old-fashioned holiday look that you just can't seem to find in a new item. And it being the holiday season, I have spent quite a bit of time in the past few weeks adding to this collection. One item that I had not yet acquired was an angel for my tree. I had a very specific kind and design that I had been looking for, but I just could not find it until 2 weeks ago. That's when she walked into a home decor store that she frequents often, and she walked into one of the aisles when something red caught her eye, and it was just laying there on a random shelf. When she got closer, she realized it was the angel tree topper, and oddly enough, it had all this very specifics that she was looking for. She bought it, went home. She wanted to put it up immediately, so she put it on her tree, and it was perfect. And as she put it there, she pushed it a few times really hard just to make sure that it was not going to come off. She made sure it was very, very tight, just as if it had been nailed to the tree. Week passes, and she said she lives in an apartment building, and it has a laundromat across the street, and or across the parking lot. And her fiance decided to go and do a few loads of laundry. It was a nice day out, and everything was normal. They left their apartment. They came back around 6 minutes later, and as soon as they walked into the living room, she realized that the angel was now off of the tree and in the recliner next to it. She said they looked at each other, and they gave each other that look like, I know what you're thinking, right? And she said she picked up the angel and she checked it for damage because there's a wooden arm on the recliner, and she checked the tree for damage to see if the angel had brought anything down with it as it fell. There was no problems. There was no damage. Nothing was out of place on the tree. The ribbon that she had wrapped around the tree was not removed, and even the fragile glass decorations were unharmed. In order for this to happen, the angel would have to have had to lift up about 6 inches, since the dress is about a foot long, to not touch anything on the tree as it fell. In other words, if you're picturing the angel on the tree, in order for it to clear that tree in its fall, it would have had to have been lifted up 6 inches off of it because of the size of the dress. So anyway, they didn't understand how this could have happened without any interference, without one of them having to have interfered with it. They had no idea what to make of it and were pretty puzzled as to how this could have happened. And she decided to brush it off as a freak occurrence and simply put the angel back on the tree. She grabbed the chair from her kitchen, positioned it in front of the tree between the couch and the recliner. She then fixed the ribbons on the angel and then placed it back on the tree. She made sure that it was very secure. She pulled the long dress it was wearing all the way down just like before, and she then pushed the angel with her hand pretty hard, quite a few times, to where the tree actually moved when she pushed it, just to make sure that it was not going to fall again, that it was very good and secure. And it was as sturdy as could be. And she just looked at it for a few more moments, pondering how it could have come down on its own, when she felt herself falling straight back off the chair and landed between the chair and the living room coffee table. She jumped up in pain as she hit her side on the recliner as she fell. She looked around to see if her fiance may have tried to scare her or pushed her, like it felt like she was pushed. And then she realized that the shower was running and that she had been alone in the living room. Her fiancé was taking a shower. And then she looked right up at the angel, and she knew immediately that she was pushed. She was very freaked out about it, and when she told her fiancé, he wanted to get rid of it right then and there, but Emma did not. And as she writes this, she said the angel is about 10 feet away from her, and last night they had company over, and this is a detail that I found interesting. They smelled the distinct smell of cat urine in the living room. Now, they don't own a cat, neither does the company they had. And the reason why that's interesting, for those of you who follow cursed objects, like even if you don't and you just heard, like, say, the Dybbuk box, which is one of the more popular, cursed objects, that is a distinct smell that people smell with cursed objects.
Ammonia.
Yeah, it's like an ammonia smell. She doesn't own a cat. Their company never, so that was very out of place. And she knows eventually the holidays will be over. She'll pack it away in a secure box. She'll line it with salt in hopes that, she can, I guess, contain whatever presence is with it. She owns a lot of collectibles, and being a medium, she typically assesses each item to make sure there is nothing attached to it before she even purchases it. Well, she bought a lot of items from flea markets and never had any problems with them before. This angel is brand new, and I guess you would just assume there's nothing wrong with a new item. It doesn't have a history, right? She said she should have known better because, and this is, I guess, kind of a weird, just the way it happens is weird. She said that she walked straight to that aisle. She said it was the only angel there, and it matched exactly very specific things that she was looking for. What are the odds? And she said that her fiance, his words still ring in her head from that day. That's crazy. It's exactly what you wanted it to be. So, we say this all the time on this show, but we don't really believe in coincidences over here at Effed Up Stories. In fact, more often than not, what we feel may be a small coincidence often turns out to be a big deal later on. So that's Emma's story here. Hope you guys can see that what's it called? The picture here.
The image.
The image. Yeah. I'm just going to blow it up a bit here, which is kind of weird to do in this program, but maybe it's me, and maybe it's because I know the story, but it does have a little bit of a creepy look to it. And something that I found ironic was that it's an angel, and it pushed her off the chair, right? So it's not the kind of behavior you associate with angels.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this kind of thing before. Figurines like this or idols tend to attract spirits or beings. I don't know if it would really matter what the symbolism behind it is, but an idol's an idol, and it's this subject has made me think of or I guess ponder having lots of different kinds of figurines and stuff around, even if it's just decorations. And yes, Greenfell's Lucifer was an angel technically as well. And there was a whole host of them that fell together, according to, the tales.
Oh, and something I just want to say in the podcast, because I keep forgetting that this chat, this chat is not available after the show is. So for anybody listening to it after the fact, Emma just said, because she's in the chat here, the following day, I guess, to when she sent that angel in, she had a friend get tapped on the shoulder and pinched, right? So yeah, it definitely does sound like there's something attached to that figure, that idol. It's just ironic that it seems to be, it could be an imp, although I don't know if pushing someone off a chair is considered just impish behavior or something more, but definitely seems like there's something there.
Trickster spirits, the tales of trickster spirits that I've read, a lot of them do have a darker side to it generally. That is not just, them pulling a prank. That invariably, as time goes on and the prankster activity progresses into a slightly darker place from time to time.
For sure. Actually, cursed objects is one of my my favorite little topics. We've done a number of shows on it, and I don't really get tired of it, but it's hard to find new ones, like especially like ones that aren't just the most famous ones, like the Crying Boy painting, and James Dean's car and stuff
The
like
Hope
that.
Diamond and stuff like
The Hope
that.
Diamond, yeah, like the really famous ones, everybody's kind of heard. It's hard to find new ones, but it's a thing. Like it's something I found that was really interesting. I think it was in one of the recent podcasts we did, but we did one with a fellow who was native, or no, sorry, he wasn't native, but a woman, yeah, the cursed what was it, iPod, right? And
Oh yes.
right, and then he ended up running into a native because the iPod belonged to a native girl, and his girlfriend stole it. Blah blah blah. It was cursed, and anyway, it turns out that, at least according to this native, when he asked him, was that it was common for natives to, if they believed they had an item that someone was going to steal, they'd actually curse the items that when they stole it. It was like, there's karma on you, right? So yeah, I mean it's a lot more common than you think, but maybe not necessarily in the Americas, right? Probably more where magic is practiced in like India. Like they practice a lot of black magic and stuff over there, right?
I guess something I didn't address at all. Yes, I've seen somebody mention it in the comments. Still no cam. I will be rectifying that. I just honestly haven't been able to get around to get one. I was going to do it the weekend, but had some things I had to take care of around the house and just completely forgot about it. So eventually I will get a camera, and hopefully that we won't have issues setting that up.
I don't think we'll have an issue with that. I will tell you guys that the way I got the audio to work is really friggin' weird, because my sound card just don't, like, this program should be easy peasy, plug and go, but because of my sound card it's not. And I got a really wacky setup to get me and Ryan in this conversation. Because I was going to have like background music and all kinds of stuff I could have going, like a full-on show, right? Where I could just cue in stuff. But unless I can figure out a different way to go, it's not going to work currently, because it's just mono, and it's my output loop right back into an input. But anyway, I have some other stories as well. Since we're gonna we'd like to do a little bit of a Hardy show. So this is a story that came in from Marie. Got this. Remember, I said I was gonna go back through a backlog of submissions that I got. So that's what I'm doing. This was actually submitted to me on September 8th.
Oh, look! Did you see that? Gregory Myers works for one of the biggest chem manufacturers in the world. Yeah, my email is ryan@effedupstories.com. Feel free to send me a message.
Wait, I think I missed a part. I work for the biggest cam. Oh, cool. Cam manufacturer. Okay. Right on. Well, now you're getting connections, Ryan.
There we go.
That's awesome. All right, so Canon. Yes, boy. Canon brand, like webcam. Okay. That reminds me. Something that I'm going to do when I'm not so lazy is try to set up my DSLR for my camera instead of using this crappy webcam built into my iMac. I got a couple lights, too. It should look a lot better. But anyway, we're going to jump into the story from Marie. I got it way back. I think I said it was September 8th. And I'm just going to read her story. I'm not even sure what it is. So we'll just go through it, see what it is, and we will discuss it. Dear Will and Ryan, I've never shared this story with anyone but my immediate family, but after listening to your podcast, especially your near-death experience episode, I felt the need to share it with you. I don't know what I would categorize my story as, but it may have been a near-death experience. I am not sure, but I will never forget it. I don't know what I... Fuck, I just read that. Never mind me, guys. I'm drunk. I'm just joking. When I was 25, I divorced a man named Bill, who was a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde drinker, who, unbeknownst to me, mixed Johnny Walker Black with skim milk every morning before he went to work. I had been putting up with nightly physical and emotional abuse for the 7 years I was married to him, and I finally mustered up the courage to leave him. After the divorce, I landed a nice job as a legal secretary in Manhattan with excellent benefits and decided that I needed to get dental work done. I hadn't seen she said in brackets, I hadn't seen a dentist since she left home at 17. So after the divorce, and while she was trying to rebuild her life, she visited a dentist and was told that she needed extensive dental work done, which consisted of 4 root canals and bridges, which would require multiple visits. The dentist would let her bring her own cassettes, and, this was back in the 80s, and, he would play Kate Bush, David Bowie, and other music that she brought while he performed his work on her teeth. And he would give her what she called, quote-unquote, sweet air to calm her. And she said, thinking back, she thinks it was sodium pentothal. It smelled like oranges, and she would often relax so he could drill and pull and do everything he needed to do to get her teeth corrected and in good shape. One visit she came in, sat in the dentist's chair with one of her favorite artists playing in the background, and as usual, the dentist assistant put the mask over her face with the sweet air and left the room to give time for it to take effect. The next thing that she knew, she was floating above her body. There was no pain, only peace. Then a deep, resonating voice, a male voice, spoke to her and said, I quote, "Nothing in this life matters. Not Bill, not your job, not money. What matters is what comes after." Unquote. She said she was in total peace. Then someone was shaking her awake. It was the dentist and his assistant. They were shouting her name, and finally she opened her eyes. The dental assistant told her that when she came back, to check on her, she was curled up in a ball in the chair, clutching her stomach, and they were just about to call 911 because they thought that she had gone into seizure or cardiac arrest. But then informed her that they had given her the lowest dosage of sweet air. The dosage was actually for children, not for adults, and they could not understand how this happened. And she said she's not sure what happened either, but she does know that it was God who spoke to her. She said she's now 58, and she's spoken, or she said, I've spoken to me. Wait, I'm trying to make, that line's not written right. But anyway, she said that he spoke, it was God that spoke to her while she floated above her body in the dentist's office. And thanks for listening, and thanks for the show. So that is Marie's story. So I guess she had a bad reaction to the I guess anesthesia. Is that what they would call it? Sweet air? Is that what she's talking about? Anesthetic?
Well, I'm guessing it's like nitrous oxide or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So she had perhaps it was a near-death experience, but the interesting thing there, is that line that she said. Like, we're always looking for. I can see what they're talking about in the chat there. We're laughing about you're being chased by the handicap.
I've never been chased.
You've been stalked.
I've been fallen upon.
Okay, don't even get me started. Like, I've been crying and laughing at that all week. All right. Yeah. So anyway, the line in Marie's story that it's something to take. That's what we look for, right? There's nuggets of wisdom from other people's experiences. And her note, or her main message here, was that her ex-husband didn't care, right? Her, where was the other thing? Nothing in this life matters. Not Bill, not your job, not money. What matters is what comes after. And that seems to be the message. Like, whenever you look into religion, they almost all base around that concept, right? It's like, what we do here, the only thing of significance is where it leads us after, right? It's like, any accomplishment or whatever, however we measure that here, whether that's how much money you make, what kind of job you have, what kind of a whatever. None of that seems to matter, but what where we go matters. And in order to get somewhere, supposedly you gotta be a good person. So Ryan, that leaves me and you like in a bad spot, man. But
yes.
I love how that was just so like yes.
Yes. Well, I've accepted it. I mean, can't change myself now. And I see Midwestern is referencing another funny little thing. If you remember that person talking about being the reincarnation of Hitler, and he was told this by the reincarnation of Napoleon.
Yeah, that was good.
That wasn't me. That was somebody who actually submitted something to us.
So he thought that you said that. Okay, that's.
I just wanted to clear that up. For the record, I'm not Hitler.
Okay, all right. That was good though. I mean, that's the kind of shit that we get sometimes. Like, I mean, we do get some fucking crazy people submitting stories. Like that was one of them. It was like this guy was all serious, right? And he's like, he had this big long thing, and I didn't know where he was going with it. And he's like, and it's because I found out that I'm the reincarnation of Leonardo da Vinci, or no, the reincarnation of Hitler, and it was revealed to him by the reincarnation of Leonardo da Vinci. And I was just thinking, like, holy fuck, right? Like, how did two nut jobs that fucked find each other, right? Like in a library somewhere, and I mean, it was
fated that the two should meet.
That was just crazy. And there was this other guy too, man. Like, not that I'm trying to really make fun, but I just would like to give, some perspective to the people out there. Like, I mean, I'm all for, like, I'll give, what's the word I say? How do I phrase this? If my mind wasn't a piece of shit today.
You give people the benefit of the doubt.
The benefit of the doubt. And, this guy emails me, like, and I thought it was going to be like a demonic possession kind of thing. It was all like, I mean, he came, like, he linked to like this religious site that he had, and all this, it was very religious based, right? And he was talking about his
very serious throughout the whole
his very serious about being demonically oppressed and everything like that, until I got to the main bullet point of his story, was that it made him look at porno all the time. And I was like, because he wanted to do a show. I was like, how the fuck am I going to do a show with this? Like, so this guy is possessed by a demon that makes him beat off all day. How do you do a show about that? How could I do that with a straight face? Right? And, like, there's just no... I mean, like, give me a break, right? Like I would face palm if I wouldn't dirt up my glasses. Right? Right?
So there does seem to be an interesting connection between, I guess, substance abuse or the use of drugs and intoxicants, and these kinds of near-death experiences. I think I guess from my perspective. Perhaps it's linked with one's ability to separate themselves from the physical world more easily. We're very rooted in the here and now. For a very, very long time in human history, we had to avoid saber-toothed tigers and falling rocks and snakes and that kind of stuff. That was very important. When you use a substance, whether it's magic mushrooms or laughing gas, it allows the mind to disengage. And I find it interesting how prevalent the near-death experience, even if the person isn't actually near death, but how prevalent the near-death experience phenomenon is when people are on certain intoxicants.
I almost interrupted you. I actually did, but you kept going. Good for you. There's something I just remembered that I read today that I wanted to point out. I remember earlier we were talking about children and how they can see like ghosts and whatever, right? And we're looking for reasons why that could be. Well, anyway, I came across this article, and it was talking about like when you're born. You remember how we had those conversations about how like some people are born and they have the ability for ESP, and they have some people can see spirits, some people are kind of psychic and stuff like that, and some people, they keep these abilities as they get older, right? Well, apparently, the way that this guy put it, and I wonder if it's true. I mean, I'm not a doctor, I don't know, but apparently when you're born and you're a baby and your brain is growing, and you have all these different neurons and connections being made, apparently you do have all these different connections to things that let you do those kinds of things. And over time, you break off the connections for things that aren't so important, and you keep you build stronger connections for the things that are important. And it got me thinking about how we filter things out with our vision, right? Like you remember that story with it was like an Indian tribe or something like that on an island, and like this pirate ship or a ship or something like that went right up on the shores, and some people could see it, and other people, they just couldn't see it. Like, I mean, it was right there and they couldn't see it because their eyes filtered it out. I think you told me about that, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where the story comes from, but it was when the first Europeans were sailing up the coast, and nobody could see the ship because it was so far outside of their experience that their brain just wasn't registering it. And of course, the only person who knew that there was something wrong was the tribe shaman, and he sat on the shoreline and stared out until he was actually able to perceive it. Excuse me, got hiccups here. Brain development is a very interesting topic, and when we're born, our brain is what the term they use is plastic, is very plastic, is very malleable. And as we grow up and as we gain new experiences, our brains develop along certain lines. So in our modern world, we teach children about numbers and letters and colors and how to do math, and your whole life is really rooted in the physical, and that has a tremendous impact on how you both metaphorically and literally see the world.
And that's it, and that's exactly my point. Is that I mean, do you think that that's the way it works? You're born, and you have these connections. Maybe you are slightly telepathic, or you're slightly, you have the ability, the potential is there, and you can get tinges, you can get hints, you can get little touches of experience with these things, like children seeing ghosts or demons or whatever. But with as you get older, and it's not something that's important, it's not something that you use, perhaps you break those connections, and your brain develops into the areas that you do use, which of course is, we do teach, like you said, letters and numbers and all that stuff. But what if a baby was to be brought up in a home that was, the mother was psychic or a medium, and it was an important part of their family, right? It was an important thing that they did. Maybe that's a way that, if they practice with it, maybe that's how they could keep that ability, right, and learn it. And I see everybody's like waiting for me to laugh, right? they're just waiting. It's true, Ryan does crack me up sometimes, like he really does, but I can't foresee it happening this time. I'm gonna say that right now. And I'm gonna close my email too, or no, I can't because we're probably gonna tell another story. You guys wouldn't believe the fucking spam I get. I mean, I know it's not related to the show, but fuck spammers. Now,
I'm not sick. I'm having a hiccup attack here. I apologize.
yeah. I was gonna say something. I swear. I was gonna say. Okay, how about I just jump to a story? And while I'm doing that, if you guys got like any particular topic or something that you want us to touch on or talk about, just throw it up there in the comments. Ryan will be scanning while I'm reading, and I'll try to scan back too. So if I see something, I'll try to cover that in this show as well. So let me just jump to another story submission. Let's see here. Okay, I got one. Here. This comes from Mike. Oh, wait, this is a podcast suggestion. Never mind. Ryan, feel free to, just tell a little something or other.
Just do a little song and dance.
Do a little song and dance, yeah.
Entertain the public here. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine. I appreciate everybody's concern or Buster's concern there. My throat's a little scratchy tonight, and I'm having hiccups. Other than that, I'm doing just fine. Do you think we've been possessed by the internet? I'm not sure what you mean by that. The first few strange experiences when I got into Satanism. Okay. It's not something that I generally enjoy discussing too much. But I did practice Satanism for many years. And during that time, I think one of the most intense experiences I had was during meditation. And I felt super energized, like literally there was like electricity running up and down my legs and my arms. And I felt like I was bouncing. I was lying down in the bed, and I felt like I was jumping up and down, but horizontally. It was like this extreme, exaggerated vibration, and I just felt my mind falling and falling and falling and falling. And I was experiencing all these different sensations. I guess there's no words in the physical realm to really express what I was going through, but it was an extreme experience, and I was stuck in it. I couldn't shake myself loose. I mean, I had been meditating for very intensely every day for years at this point. And I just could not shake myself out of this meditative state. Aside from that, I think one of the important to me experiences that I had when I was, speaking to Lucifer, and I asked him if I should marry my then girlfriend, and I kind of had my eyes closed, and I was outside when I did this. It was a cold, silent night. It was like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was just standing there smoking a cigarette, and I asked the question, and when I opened my eyes, there was this intense bluish white flash of light that lit everything up around. And it just shocked me. There was no sound, there was no thunder, there was no crackle or fizz. And for the next week or so, at the time I worked at a coffee place, and we would routinely get visited by police officers. My family a lot of my family members work with the police and prison guards and whatnot, and so they all knew me, and I knew the ones that patrolled, and I asked several of them if they had seen anything that night, and nobody had seen anything like that, and that was a pretty intense one, and I took it as a positive sign, and I asked my then girlfriend to marry me a couple of days later, and we're still married.
And
happily.
You better throw that in there.
Yeah.
Hey to all the new people that just came in.
I just looked, Sherry Lowe.
Sherry,
so great to have you join us.
She was actually a guest on one of our shows way back when. I still remember it because it was a wacky story. That was the one where, what was it? I'm not going to go, it's too long, but it was the one with the witches and this and that would come out of my closet and fuck
Devils,
me.
Witches, and Kings, wasn't it?
Yeah, something. It sounded like something out of like a twisted Disney movie, right? But like a twisted dark version. It was a
fantastic story.
I always remember it. So there's a couple questions that I saw scroll by as I was looking for a story, which I have, by the way. I'm just going to field those questions, and then we'll jump into, I guess, our last story for the evening. So Greenfellas asked, can we tell the rest of the Desert Witch story? And as it happens, you know what? I saw my computer there the other day. I've had my wife edit a couple stories for me over in the past because I've just been, I'm just so busy. And that was one of the ones that she edited. So it's on my PC somewhere, and I thought about it today. I want to take that and bring that over, and yes, I do plan to share that with you guys really soon. So that was part 2 to the Desert Witch story. For those of you who don't know what I'm referring to, we do have an episode called The Desert Witch on here that was really cool. I got another question here from Midwestern. Have you guys ever had sleep paralysis? And the answer is yes. I can tell you a couple different stories about sleep paralysis. I'll tell you one right now, and it's not very long. It happened to me. Stuck with me. So anyway, we got this place where, where Ryan and I are from, where you used to be able to go camping, and basically it's like out in the woods, and there's like all these dirt roads that go everywhere. And anyway, I dreamt I was there for whatever reason, and it was like mid-afternoon, and it was like really, it was really hot. And if you've ever been there, Ryan, you know what I'm speaking of. It's a little bit of a maze, right? It's just all these dirt roads that kind of interlink and go all over the place, unless you go far enough to get to the end, and you can see the view of the water and stuff. But other than that, it's like in the middle of the woods dirt road grid or something like that. And anyway, or not a grid, but like just dirt roads winding and winding. And anyway, I was walking on one of those roads, and there was this guy dressed in all black, and he was, in the distance. Like you ever be walking somewhere and there's someone in the distance, and if you're lost, you feel like you got to run up and catch up to him. Like, where am I? Where do I go? And that's the kind of situation I found myself in. And every time I tried to I'd call out, he didn't hear me, he just kept walking. If I ran up a bit, it was like he was always on the edge of that curve, that turn. So he was always rounding the corner. And anyway, he finally got around the corner, and I ran because I was lost in the woods. It was very hot, and I didn't know where I was. And when I got around, there was a cabin. And I didn't see this guy anywhere. And like I said, he was all in black. He had like a black top hat. Kind of looked like a priest from behind. And anyway, I went in the cabin, thought I could use the phone. And I looked for a phone, and of course there was none. And I was just looking through the house. There was nobody there. I just wanted to reach out and somehow get someone to pick me up or get me out of there. And I remember I found myself up in the attic as I was looking through the cabin or the house or whatever the hell it was. And when I got up there was this big window, against the far side of the attic. And as I made my way over to it, once I looked out the window, there was that priest was actually standing right directly on the floor below in the front yard, staring up at me. and he was old, but his face was completely white. He looked like he was dead. He looked very extremely sinister. And as he stared at me, this is the part that really got me, and what I guess paralyzed me, is that it was this sound. It was like, in a horror movie with the orchestration, when they got all those notes that are off with one another, and it's just this big wall of like sounds that are against each other, like the discord of it. And it sounds like scary. That's why they use it in a horror movie. And it was such a big wall of sound because there was like no sound in my dream up to then. And it was like such a loud sound. It was paralyzing. And the window started to bleed. And I couldn't move. I was completely paralyzed in my dream. And I couldn't move at all. And the blood just, I was stuck there. And the blood eventually covered the window. And when I woke up, I was paralyzed for, I'd say, felt at least like 5 minutes. And I could just kind of blink and kind of, use my eyes to look around a little bit, but I couldn't move. And so that was one case. I got another one too where I witnessed someone die. I think I told that, or I didn't witness. It was a prophetic dream, where
premonition.
A dream of premonition. I did tell that in a podcast before. It was one of our first ones that we did. But yeah, it was my grade 4 teacher. And she died. Anyway, I'm going to jump into the story.
So just a couple of questions I've seen scroll by, just to answer them.
Okay.
So anything new on Skinwalker Ranch? Not to my knowledge. The only thing I've heard coming out of Skinwalker lately is that they've been forced to take the gate down because they had a gate up blocking access, but technically it's a public road, and they've been forced to take down the gate now. So I would not recommend, however, trespassing, as last we heard there were still armed guards on the property. So maybe just stay away from that. Midwestern asked me if I thought, while I was meditating, that I went to the same place as his friend did, the Murder Mansion story, where the group of people met and they were into the occult. I really don't know. My personal belief is that there are many different layers and membranes of reality, and that it is possible for the human mind to traverse them like we could never do physically. In fact, I think many of these realms are non-physical, and that was the impression that I got, was that I was very quickly slipping from realm to realm, from dimension to dimension, and just flying through them at an incredible rate of speed. So yeah, we'll jump into the next story there.
Okay, so now this one, originally the way she wrote it was that it was going to be a podcast suggestion, but there is a bit of a story there, and I thought that maybe if I read this, if it's something that anybody else is out there familiar with, maybe we could get some stories from them, and then we could do a show on it rather than just research on the internet. Because one thing I would like to point out, I know I've done this, I've said this before, but when we started this show, it really was, we wanted to make the focal point about everybody else's stories, right? Like the people who haven't gotten to tell their stories. Nobody's heard them before. When you go researching, you're often finding the most popular stories, and other people have heard them before. So we really want to be a platform that focuses on you guys and your stories. And even though we didn't start off that way, that was just to get the ball rolling, because to get submissions, we had to get, so popular, right? So now that we're finally there, I definitely like to keep the focal point on you guys. So rather than just go and research this topic that she suggested, maybe by telling her story and bringing the topic up, maybe one of you have a story on this topic, and you could send it in and we could cover that. So anyway, this submission came from Alessandra Garza. I got this, this is all the way back in July 18th. Like I said, I got quite a backlog here. So anyway, I'm just going to go into her story. I'm going to read it as she would do here. Okay, hi guys. I have a subject that I was wondering if you guys can cover. And she calls it, and this is a foreign word. I'm not good with these, okay? So just kind of bear with me here. Lechuzas, Lechuzas. Also known as witches who practice black magic and shift into these large birds, okay? Basically these witches that sold their souls to the devil so that they could shift into these birds and they could, do black magic and stuff like that. So anyway, that
sounds like a skinwalker.
Sounds like my kind of story. So that's what a lechuzas is. I guess it's a particular school of, black magic that's practiced, right? And like we've heard this before, right? Like in India, they got names for them like skinwalkers, right? Like once you reach a certain level of occulthood in this certain cult or whatever, you can reach the highest realm of skinwalker. Well, over here, I guess it's the lechuzas, and this is I'm not sure if it's Italian or Mexican, but I guess we'll get to that as we get through the story. So anyway, she said she is half Italian through her mother's side and half Mexican through her father's side. She's not close to her Mexican roots. She does not speak Spanish, but she understands it. She understands it that she does speak Italian. Oh, wait, I'm lost. See, this is why I usually edit this stuff. I do not speak Spanish, but I understand it. I do speak Italian. My father is from Mexico City, not from the villages or town in Mexico, so I was never familiar with Mexican legends such as lechuzas who supposedly bring bad luck. I am 24 and reside in Texas, which has a large Hispanic population. And a couple of days ago, my mom had a Princess House party. Since she sells Princess House items, she invited several ladies, some of who are from villages in Mexico and only spoke Spanish. Her mom is fluent in Spanish, Italian, and English, and she has several Hispanic and Latino friends. Anyway, after displacing several Princess House products, they all went off to their dinner room to eat. And somehow several paranormal topics came up, one of which was the lechuzas, something that she had never heard about and was instantly interested in. Her mother was interested as well, as, they just never heard about this before, so they started talking about the lechuzas. And three of the women at the party who only speak Spanish mentioned their encounters with lechuzas in their villages in Mexico. Guadalupe, one of the three ladies, said that the first time that she ever encountered a lechuza was in the late 70s. And she lived on the outskirts of town with her in-laws, where there was nothing but field. And she recently had a baby at the time and wanted to go outside and hang her baby's cloth diapers on the way out the door on the porch. And when she was out there, she saw a large owl-looking creature. And keep that in mind, large owl-looking creature, not necessarily an owl. And every time she tried to open the door, the creature would screech and hiss loudly as if it was trying to intimidate her. And being too scared to go outside, she waited until her mother-in-law came home with Guadalupe's brother-in-law. And Guadalupe told her mother-in-law about the bird creature that was still on the back porch. And Guadalupe's mother-in-law looked outside and saw the creature and told Guadalupe, it's getting confusing, she told Guadalupe to say this prayer. And she doesn't exactly remember how it went since she did not speak Spanish, but it went something like this, and she got it in brackets there. Cruise, cruise, let the devil come and let there be light. Now, Guadalupe's mother-in-law told her son, Guadalupe, brother-in-law, oh, for fuck's sakes. Okay, Guadalupe's mother-in-law told her son, Guadalupe's brother-in-law, to get the hot grease and throw it on the creature after doing so the creature fled screaming. Okay, so they're on the back porch, and I apologize, I should have, fucking edited this before I start reading it. Anyway, so, she was afraid to go out on the back porch. She saw the, this owl creature. She was told to go out there and throw this hot grease on the creature. And she did it, and the creature flew off screaming. Now, the next day, Guadalupe's sister-in-law, Josepha, was going into town to buy some bread at a bakery. And Guadalupe's mother-in-law, who is Josepha's mother... Oh, my God. Is anyone else as confused as I am? Fuck me. There's a lot of, like, this brother's uncle's other mother. Okay. Guadalupe's mother-in-law is Josepha's mother and told her, look around and see if she saw anyone in town who was burned and to come back and tell her. Okay. I think I'll be able to summarize this once I get through it. And Josepha came back and told her mother that at the bakery she saw a lady named Carlotta. And her mother was severely burned from her face, trying to cover her face with the scarf. When Josephia asked what happened to her, she said that she was accidentally burned by cooking grease. Okay, so here's what happened. It's not screwed. Here's what's happening. All right. So these three women. Yeah, I hear you, Emma. That's what happened to me, but I think I kind of get what she's trying to say now. So basically, this woman and her mother was at this... they were at this house party thing where they sell, like, you know, like in America. What's the stuff your wife sells, Ryan?
Well, you're talking about like Tupperware parties,
stuff like that, right? You're selling this stuff. So they're having a party like that, and you got these, there's a language barrier. Like the woman who's telling the story, her mother could speak like all these different languages, and there was three women there who could speak only Spanish. And the story that was being told was in Spanish, and it happened to these this specific woman there, Guadalupe. Okay. And what happened was Guadalupe had gone out, or her daughter or something like that, went out on the back stoop. They were going to do some laundry. This was back in the 80s, right? And she had the cloth diapers, if you can imagine. That's a horror story in itself. And, she was going to put these cloth diapers up when she saw this owl-looking creature, okay? And when she went out there, the owl-looking creature was making screeching sounds at her as if to intimidate her. And it wasn't an owl, okay? That's the important thing, because that's what they're talking about. It's these lechuas or whatever they are. It's like a witch that reaches a certain level where they can shapeshift into an owl-like creature and whatever, okay? So this is kind of like where the skinwalker stuff goes. So what she was told to do by one of her family members was to take the grease in one of her pots and go out there and throw it at this owl creature, okay? And that's what she did. And then the next lady, a relative of theirs was at a bakery, and anyway, they saw a lady that, her mother had been badly burned by the same, badly burned, and when she asked what she was burned with, it was grease, cooking grease. And this is what happened to, this is what she threw at the owl, okay, the owl creature. And I guess the idea being that this owl creature was that lady after she had shapeshifted. So she was there on her stoop. So that's where we're to so far. That's where we're to. Now, years later, Guadalupe found out that Carlotta, that's the woman that was burned or whatever, that Carlotta was actually having an affair with... Wait, now, found out Carlotta and her husband were having an affair and believes that Carlotta's mother was the creature that was there that day. Okay, so the mother was the one at the bakery that got... or not the bakery. She was the one that got burned. She was the owl. And she was having an affair or something like that. Okay, she was burned to cause harm to Guadalupe for marrying and having a child with her husband. Okay, it's getting... All right, anyway, the moral of the story is that they're shape-shifted and... Fuck me. But see, this is why normally I edit this shit and I say I don't have time, because, some of these stories you got to go through and just fucking rewrite
completely
them.
Rewrite.
Completely.
So, I think, again, this is not our first go at the shape-shifting witch phenomenon. There's so many stories right across the whole planet. I know, I've talked to people just coworkers from far off distant lands that are exotic to me, and quite surprised at the prevalence of such stories. Um, but isn't it interesting how often owls are tied up in the paranormal? Of course,
Moloch the
there's
owl.
Moloch the owl. That's probably the most recognizable paranormal connection to an owl for anybody in North America. The Bohemian Grove and all that darkness that goes on there.
So one thing I do want to add to that story. So like, I'm just gonna summarize this whole thing for people, okay? Because
You're gonna summarize your summary now.
I'm gonna summarize my summary because a lot of this stuff didn't even matter. The moral of the story is that, that's right, my panties are in a bunch. I need new ones. Brittany, if you're in the chat room, you're my wife. I want a pair of your panties. All right. So anyway, the way that this went is that there was these ladies who had these stories with the Lechuas, okay? And basically, a Lechua is a witch that can shapeshift into an owl, all right? Or like a bird or something like that. They do black magic and shit like that. Anyway, what they found out was that, way back in the 80s, one of these women were, they had a baby, and they had gone out in the back to put like these cloth diapers on the line. And when they did that, there was this owl-like creature, not an owl, but like an owl creature that was screeching at her like, there you go. Omar is pronouncing it for me. Lechusa. Okay. So anyway, she goes out there. This creature's, screeching at her and intimidating her. She goes in the house, asks the, her relatives what to do. They say to throw, this cooking grease at it, which she does. And then they find out, all through the family and through people, I guess, at the local store place, that there was one of the woman's mothers was just severely burned by grease, right? And, long story short is that it was that woman's mother that was the owl creature. She had shapeshifted. She was out on the back of the house, and that's, when she went out, she threw the grease. That's who she got. So even when she went back to her human form, she still had the damage done, and it had to do with some kind of affair within the family or whatever. And there was another little tidbit at the end here where there was another lady named Maria from the same village, and anyway, her uncle woke her up early one day to take care of his farm animals on the side of his property fence, and he ended up seeing a naked lady with long black hair with her knees against her chest. And the lady told him that she fell and that she couldn't fly anymore because it was done and the sun was going to come up soon. So, please get her clothes. And if he didn't do it, that he was going to regret it because he would die along with his farm animals. And anyway, the ladies at the party told him that supposedly these lechusas, however Omar pronounced it for me, would appear right before something bad happened, and that they practice bad magic, mostly appearing to drunk men. Of course, right? Because like a drunk man don't have enough problems. We should go and fucking curse them and shit too. But anyway, they're known to kidnap children, and so apparently now she said that she wanted us to investigate the idea that they may be connected to Mothman, and who knows? Because a Mothman is a Mothman. And yes, you're right, Roland, to make a short story long.
Make a short story long.
I spent the night there 1 week, right? But yeah, that was a bit...
Well, the Mothman is generally connected with, some kind of...
curse. Or not a curse.
Future
tragedy.
Event, yeah.
Future tragedy. It's funny. I just got spam coming that says restore brain function. Maybe it's not all spam after all.
No coincidences, right, bud?
No coincidence at all. I don't believe in that shit. But I've had a long day here, and just it's a messy. See, anyway, I digress. This is what I talked about before by not having time to just do this thing. I should just read them beforehand and come in and spit them out. That way, at least I'll have the generals of the story. But yeah, so she was a shapeshifter. It shares a commonality with the the skinwalkers, right? Now the difference being with the shapeshifters or the skinwalkers is that if you know their name and you say it or something like that within 3 days or doing a certain thing, they die. So that was always interesting. In fact, some of the most interesting stories come from natives, I find anyway. They don't really like their stories getting out there, but the people who do tell them, they got some pretty good ones. Okay, so that being said, obviously I need to get some rest and see, like, I'm drawing blanks right now. I'm going nowhere with this fucking thing. All right, the clue up here.
Is there are there any other questions? I know that that there may have been some that people have asked a little further up that just got lost in this wall of text I'm scrolling through.
Yeah.
I mean, this show, doing the show is about you guys, is about us as a community, and that it may not have started out that way, like Will said earlier, but that was always our intention. It was the idea of building a community of like-minded people. Jules just asked, do we believe in Bigfoot? I do.
Ryan might be Bigfoot. Have you ever seen his shoulders? But
oh my god.
Yes, we believe in Bigfoot. Ryan, that's one of Ryan's top cryptid creatures. I like Bigfoot, but to me that's like the zombie of the horror world. It's just so common that it's generic.
So common
to me.
and over. See, I'll give a little, like, for me, I do believe in Bigfoot, but to go even further with it, I believe that perhaps Bigfoot is what humanity was supposed to be at this point in time in our evolution. That a long time ago, now I'm not saying I believe this 100%, but I hold this as a possibility that very long time ago, a race of beings came here and messed with our DNA. And the result is what we refer to as modern humans, Homo sapiens sapien. And that if the Bigfoot phenomenon is real, why would the government give a shit about covering it up? When, if you really go digging around, there does appear to be some kind of systemic suppression of this information. And if that's the case, why? And the only thing that made sense to me was that Bigfoot, Yeti in China, they call him the Yeren. Florida has the skunk ape. There seems to be a whole bestiary of Bigfoot-like creatures, and I think it's very possible that that human beings were developing along, our ancestors were developing along certain evolutionary lines, and perhaps Bigfoot is what we refer to in the study of animals, or the study of prehistoric creatures, Gigantopithecus, and it seems to its skeleton, the recreations of the skeleton seems to indicate that it was very similar to what we refer to as Bigfoot, modern day sightings. And I think that if we were altered genetically into what we are, that if we hadn't, or that original being that was altered was something like Bigfoot, and there's just a few of them kicking around remaining today. They've managed to survive alongside of us for hundreds of thousands of years. But that if the truth of that ever came out, if somebody actually ever caught a Bigfoot, and started doing research on it, they would find that perhaps it would start to unravel this secret that's been kept. And that's my take on Bigfoot. So while it is a cryptozoological staple, kind of like Nessie and that kind of thing, I think it has very interesting, deeper implications.
Okay, so a couple of other questions that were there that I'll field before we clue up here. So storyteller asked, "Have we ever had an experience with a shapeshifter?" Well, I shapeshifted my wife into a pretzel. Now we have a son. So there's that. We also have a question from Greenfelds. If you could have the choice of meeting with a paranormal entity, which would it be? That's a good one. Personally, one of the ones that I find the most interesting is probably Mothman, but I don't know if I'd want to have an encounter with Mothman. But maybe a fairy, man. Like they seem to have all this knowledge that once you they share with you, right? Like you.
Yeah, if they don't steal your eyesight and make you age 100 years.
Well, I would hope that they would be my friend. Maybe.
So a positive. Now, I don't know if you would consider, are we calling extraterrestrials a paranormal phenomenon?
I think we do.
There does seem to be a connection of high strangeness with them from time to time. But I think that would be my choice. I'm absolutely obsessed with space, and the idea of life on other worlds. The idea of coming in contact with a non-human intelligent creature or non-human intelligence in general just fascinates me to no end. The idea of coming in contact with a consciousness that has evolved so differently from us, and what kind of perspective could that lend us? What kind of understanding could we gain just from the comparison? So for me, it would definitely be some kind of extraterrestrial.
Okay, and Ryan, there's one other question I think we should field here from Murdoch. Said, if you could have the complete answer to any one paranormal mystery, which would it be? And like, there's so many.
I know what your answer is going to be.
Well, one is life. I'd love to know. Like, I don't know if you call that paranormal, but well, I guess it's normal. Okay, a different one.
Near death experience.
Well, it kind of ties into what the point of life is. Where you go when you die. I mean,
well, I think that's what you're driving at, right? Is that if you could have the whole near death experience phenomenon completely 100% explained to you, that you understood it completely, that would be my pick, absolutely, because I feel like everything kind of circle, like that feels like the pinnacle point, the most important thing to try and figure out here. But if I couldn't pick that one, I think I would pick, I'm very interested by the the tails hum kind of a thing, like where you hear like something really odd in the sky, like it sounds like machinery. The sky sounds.
Yeah, like I've even heard that, right? That's something that I feel like it's probably something stupid, like somehow like our sound's getting out and bouncing back, but I don't know.
The most interesting aspect of the sky sounds I ever heard was this person claiming that they had taken the recordings of many different sky sounds from all over the world and had layered them all together, and it came out sounding like a celestial chorus of trumpets and singing.
That's bizarre, hey? Like sometimes I wonder if it wasn't an alien race on a different planet that had sent a message down, and that's what we got, right? Or maybe it just traveled. They didn't even send it. It just got here. But then I'm thinking
the implications from this guy was that, of course, it's the choirs of angels and their trumpets and singing.
See, the only thing is, like, and if we're looking off planet, and this is something nobody accounts for, but sound can't travel in space. As we know, sound travel because sound travels by propagation, which is on air, right? It's like bubbles that go through the air.
Or water.
Or water.
It needs a medium in order to travel.
It needs a medium in order to travel. So, yeah, I don't know how that would work. Like when people say they translate out a message, I don't know how they'd send that. Like even when they say they send it via, well, I guess I still don't get it. Like satellites and all that shit. Like I mean, they're essentially sending signals, I believe, from Earth and bouncing it. Off. I don't know if not the ozone layer, but
well, they're using electromagnetic. Like they're using energy pulses that are based on somewhere in the electromagnetic spectrum, whether that's radio or radar or whatever. You can transmit that through the vacuum of space. I mean, that's why we get hit by the sun's rays.
Right? There's a comment there that just has to be pointed out because it's gold.
Ryan is your guardian angel special needs. I don't have a guardian angel.
This is a tie-in to the last show, by the way, guys.
I think pretty much everybody's aware of that by now.
Oh man, that's classic. Oh, that's gonna be one of my favorite. I even mentioned to Ryan like taking that 5-minute clip and just making his own episodes. Yeah, fucking right, we're not doing that. So yeah, that's one of my favorite one of my favorite little man. Did that ever take me by surprise? I mean, you can actually see it. I went back and listened to it, and like when you mentioned the handicapped people, I'm like, wait, what?
Okay, moving on.
All right. Anyways, guys, if you got, like I said before, if you have stories on, like you have kids or you know someone who has kids that have seen ghosts or demons, or like maybe you heard something really creepy on,
or you remember something from your own childhood.
Or you remember something from your own childhood, or you heard something on those, the baby monitors, or saw something on a baby monitor. I'd love to get those stories. I'd love to do a show about those stories. So if you guys got that, send it in. You can do it on the official website, effedupstories.com. That's EFFEDUPSTORIES.com. And, the other one. If you have any experiences with interacting with electrical devices, right? Like you walk under a street light and it goes out. Or, you have a radio that turns on and off by itself. Or, you're one of those people or know somebody who has, this kind of effect on electrical device. Some people call them sliders. I'd like to get those stories from you guys for a podcast as well. And that about sums it up. Oh, yeah. And lastly, if there's anybody out there, especially that's a gamer that wants to get, a download code of Gears of War 4 for half price, because it came with my graphics card and I already own it, just email me at will@effedupstories.com and I'll send you a PayPal invoice for half the price and then the code. So you get the game, it's a new game, get it for half price. That sums it up. So thanks to everybody for popping in. I love this back and forth that we get to do with the fans. It's awesome. Especially like the funny stuff that comes up. It's really, really awesome. So we definitely want to make the show more and more about you guys and put you guys into it. Be a part of the show, right? And eventually I think we're going to start doing this calling. Maybe we can call you guys during the show and talk to you to get your story that way. Like kind of like what they did on Art Bell, like the call-in thing. I'd say it better, or like I'd phrase it better, but my mind is just a piece of shit tonight, so I'm going to leave that there. Anyway, have a good one, guys, and I'll check you guys, I guess, next Monday.
Next Monday we'll see you at the same time. Like we said before, we're going to do our best to stick to the Monday schedule. That way Monday isn't going to suck so much, and we can all spend some time together talking about all these interesting things that we love to talk about.
True that.
So again, thank you all so very much for joining in with us. We love hanging out around the digital campfire.
for sure. The online campfire. All right, we'll catch you next time, guys. Thanks for coming. Honestly, though, it's really awesome. We'll catch you next Monday, same time. Was it 5:30 p.m. PST?
Sure. Can't remember.
All right, we're going to go with that. Catch you next time, guys. Have a good one. With a special guest, I didn't even tell Ryan about this, that I have a little bit of a story for you guys that he's going to tell. But because of the way that my camera is situated, I'm going to have to cover up the cam, so just so you don't see him walking in. But we do have a little bit of a story. If that's cool with you guys, are you guys wanting to hear his story? Come on, can I get a yes, yes, a yay, yay? A something or other?
Remember, there's a slight delay.
Oh, yeah, right. Delay. All right, I'm just going to fucking do it anyway, because regardless of what anyone said, I was going to do it. So I'm just going to cover up my cam here. Hang on. And wait for that to...
So I got a apparently Will has a special guest for us that I didn't even know about.
All right, guys, I'm going to go get him. So, Ryan, you can chat to our crowd here for a couple minutes.
Let's all hope this is some kind of Buffalo Bill thing, and Will comes back in all tucked in and drops a robe.
And I'm like, do you want to fuck? No, okay. I'm not even going to go there. I'll be back in a minute.
How is everybody doing tonight? So glad that you can come and join us. Well, thank you very much, Charlotte. I'm doing pretty good tonight. My voice is a little rough here, so I apologize for that. And I think Will is back.
I am back. I have a little story. You guys are going to think that I'm joking at first. I'm just waiting for the feed to speed up here. Here we go.
Oh, my.
Here's my little man. Little Mr. Isaac. Oh, he's got the hiccups, and I'm hoping he's not going to get fussy because he's teething. But we actually do have a little story that I'm hoping I'm going to be able to use to get some stories from you guys. So, of course, I'm with my son a lot, and I notice a lot of different things that he does. And anyway, a couple times now I've noticed this, that he'll look up into like the corner of the room, and he'll start like smiling and laughing and actually following with his eyes something in the room, and like visually tracking it with his head. And anyway, my wife has noticed it too, and we've noticed it a couple times now, and it got to me thinking about how babies and children can see ghosts, and they can see things that
It's like I can't get my throat clear here tonight.
Yeah, I've been feeling a little touch of something too. Okay, we are live. Now we just got to see. Well, there's nobody there yet, but there's chat there though. There is chat there. All right. Anyway, let's just start, I guess. And if anybody, it's kind of funny because this is the first time we announced we were gonna do it, and there's no one fucking here. And then every other time we just like, fuck it, let's just try it right now. Oh, here we go. We got a couple of people. Hey guys.
There we go.
We got Gregory. We got the the Lick P, the Emma Badgick, the Wattens. Okay, we got a couple of people. So we got of course we're gonna be doing user submitted stories again tonight. I got a cool one actually from Emma. She's already here. And Emma, I did get your second email. I didn't reply just because I was super busy, but I got your picture, and when I tell your story, I'm actually going to throw that up on the screen. So we got that, and trying to think what else. I feel like I had some other things to say. Well, I'm just going to wait till we hit 20. When we hit 20, I guess we'll start. In the meantime, while we're starting here, people... oh, cool. We got someone from Ontario. We got Jules Catherine. She's from Ontario. I used to live there when I was a kid, you know. I actually lived in Scarborough. I was only a small lad. And my mom was afraid I'd be abducted, so we moved back home. That's a true story. Hey, Greenfelds. Hi, Jig BMW. Hi, Shar. Yeah, actually, I had this little blast force. It was like I guess a kid's bike that was kind of like a Harley Davidson and had a squirt machine gun on it and stuff. And I used to ride it down the sidewalk. And this old man used to come up fucking crazy every time I did it. I try to sleep in here. It's like, it's the fucking afternoon, you crazy asshole. You know, like, I'm just a kid. Leave me alone, right? So, okay.
Well, this is great. We're getting, lots of people.
We're getting some people there at all. Yeah, I mean, it has gotten pretty crazy up there. Hey, Jules.
Hi, Brittany.
Even from when I was there. Hi, Brittany. You see Brittany?
Yeah, Brittany's there.
That's my wife for everybody else. That's my lovely, beautiful wife.
All right, Brittany, you're ruining the bandwidth. Get off.
Actually, now I come here tonight, and hi Cisco and Gregory Myers and Charlotte C. And a lot from England. So we got people from all over. That's awesome. I came here with we can't normally see. So it got me wondering if any of our audience out there has children or maybe they're growing up now, but has some stories about their children that have, seen things that they, their parents couldn't see, things that freaked them out. One thing that always comes to my mind is when I got the baby monitor and I'm looking at it, and it's all lo-fi and man, it just looks ripe for, a horror movie kind of thing. And I'm always ready to run up, oh my God, to his room. But if you guys got a story on like if you guys have children, if you've had some freaky things that your children have done that you think is related to the paranormal or something like that, I'd love to hear it. And with that said, I'm not going to keep him here because it's probably really boring, and I know I could tell he's probably getting fussy. But here he is again, just to see how cute he is. And Isaac, everybody said you're cute. There you are, my bud. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to run him back up to his mom, and then we'll get started with some really neat stories here. Just hang on one sec. So, Ron, you can entertain the crowd here for a minute again.
Oh, yeah, well.
Oh. I got you all.
That the whole thing with children and ghosts and, of course, one of the big things is imaginary friends. I know when I was a kid, I had an imaginary friend, but I also, I'm not nowhere near as cute as Isaac, but, I do my best. When I remember when I was just a little guy, like maybe 5 and 6 years old, no, Jules, I do not have any kids, a cat. But yeah, when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, I would routinely hear whispers. A lot of the times would be my name, and quite a few times I seen shadowy figures and full-on apparitions, I guess you could say, and it would scare the life out of me. I was an extremely terrified child, because every time I was alone, I would see and hear things. And I know that makes me sound like a schizophrenic, but I would a lot of the times hear, just as a little kid, I get, do something wrong, get punished, get put in my room, couldn't leave. And it was torture because I wouldn't be allowed out of my room, and I could hear voices coming from my closet whispering my name, and it would just terrify me. And for a long time, I never slept through the whole night. I would always go to my parents' bedroom and be completely terrified of something that I seen or heard, or I would get bed shaking a lot. I know, geez, I forgot about that. Now that I'm talking about it, I would routinely feel my bed shaking, and it was, of course, my parents didn't believe me when I was, was grounded and had to stay in my room because I wasn't listening or being bad. And I plead with them, let me out, there's something in here. And nope, they wouldn't have it. So it was slightly traumatizing, but I got over it.
Yeah, and Ryan thought it would be best to then go on to get into Satanism and look into all the darkest dark stuff and conjure up demons of his own. So,
like you do.
Like you do. But, there is, for children who see this stuff, and it's kind of common, right? I mean, well, to a degree. I mean, everybody's heard of it. There's been movies that have portrayed, like, poltergeists and stuff like that. It's always the children who notice it first. And, unfortunately, a lot of people just, they don't believe in that. So if your kids come running to you, or I should say, if their kids come running to them, they just say that, that there's no such thing, blah, blah, blah. And it's terrifying. I mean, movies have portrayed that all the time, that sad situation where, the kid's actually seeing something and nobody quite believes in it. So what do you do, right? But I do. So if my son ever comes to me and he sees or hears something, then he's not going to have any problems with that. Now, before we get into the show tonight, I mean, one show I know that we're doing for sure is Emma sent in a story with it was a tree topper that she got that's actually cursed. There's a bit of a story there. I have the picture. It's really cool. And we have some other stories. Thanks, Jules. I couldn't be happier being a father, honestly. And just before we jump into the show, of course, I wanted to hear from you guys for a future show. If you have, like, your children have seen, ghosts or whatever that is. But there's another topic too that Ryan and I have talked about quite a bit back and forth, and we never did do a show on it. But if I could get some really cool stories from the audience, I'd love to do a show on it. And it has to do with people who have an interaction with electric devices, like, say, streetlights. You walk under a streetlight and it turns off. And no, I'm not talking about the motion detected lights and stuff like that. For me, I've had experiences with that stuff when I was a kid, well before that was a thing, before we had motion detected devices, and especially where I live, and it's poor as shit. I don't think that there's any even now. So these kinds of stories go way back to before that technology was here, and there are people that have electrical interference with ghost lights, with radios, with all different kinds of things, and some people refer to those people as sliders. So yeah, if you have a story like that, I'd love to hear that as well. And one last thing I wanted to point out. Last time we did this show, like somewhere in the middle, I went on and just asked the audience totally unrelated question, and it was about whether I should get a PlayStation 4 Pro or a graphics card, right? Well, I got a graphics card, and here's why I'm bringing it up. I bought this thing right here. It's a GeForce 1070 Extreme. The reason why I bring it up is because it came with a free download code of Gears of War 4, and I already own it. It was great, actually. Me and my wife played through the campaign, but I already own it. And if anyone wants to buy it for half price of what it normally goes for, I'd be happy to sell it to you. So just fire me an email, will@effedupstories.com, and I'll send you a PayPal invoice at half the price of what the game costs. You need to have Windows 10 to play it. But yeah, if you're good there and you're a gamer, it's a pretty awesome game. So with that said, we're going to jump into Emma's story. Emma Bejic. Okay. So, as I said, she sent me a story about a cursed tree topper, basically. And I'm going to show you the picture. She sent this to me. I'm just going to pop it up on the screen here. So that should pop up there in a second. This is what it looked like. To me, personally, it actually has a bit of a creepy look. But anyway, let's jump into her story. So this comes from Emma Bejic. Now, I'm going to read this as she wrote it. I'm not a stranger to the paranormal. I am a medium and have been able to see and hear spirits all of my life. My family works with what we call white witchcraft, and I have experienced a lot of paranormal phenomenon and am not easily frightened. I had always been interested in the subject of haunted items, but never thought I would actually own one myself. I have recently become an avid collector of holiday decor that I find at flea markets because of the antique quality and the old-fashioned holiday look that you just can't seem